So, this is a bit of a how do you do keto correctly type video today. We're answering a question about 5 grams of carbs. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. I'm Violet.
And I'm Pat. So, since your body can only handle 5 grams of carbs at a time, would you recommend only having 5 grams per meal? It would seem to make sense, of course. But if you're one meal a day, if you're OMAD, it wouldn't be difficult to get all the vegetables Dr. Berg, for example, recommends, where he recommends having 7 to 11 cups of salad, for example, per day. So I'm really interested about your opinion on this.
Okay.
So
So, actually, what's really super interesting to me about this question is, first of all, you are paying attention to the fact that, yes, our body only can manage 5 grams of carbs in it. So, basically, if there's more than 5 grams of carbs in your blood, your body puts it away. If it's not enough, so if it's less than 5 grams of carbs, your body pulls some out of you, right? Your body will make sugar because you need to stay at your number.
because you need the carbs for your brain, I think, if I
You
remember
need
correctly. Yeah?
for and your
Like
and your blood
and your
cells.
muscle, yeah.
Your blood
So
cells.
so, so
Actually,
you
it's
need the 5. So you need always constantly need the 5 grams at
yes.
every moment in your
So
body.
what's
Okay.
really funny
Yeah.
when I hear a lot of people who are against keto talking and they act like if we don't want to have any sugar, but not realizing that if you don't eat it, your body will make it because it absolutely has to be there. The same is true of cholesterol. If you don't eat it, your body will make it because it absolutely has to be there. So, so let's look at the question then. Should we only eat 5 grams of carbs? Well, what's interesting about that question is that, first of all, it presumes that those vegetables that Dr. Berg is asking us to eat are the only place that we can get the micronutrients that we would get from those vegetables. And so, why I like this question is because it pushes us to think a little bit bigger. Truthfully, um, Robin, if you actually eat 5 grams of carbs per meal, do you actually need to eat that large amount of vegetables? And the answer is no, if you're eating nose to tail.
Hmm.
The reason that I still eat some veg is because I don't eat nose to tail. And that's me. Personally, I really cannot eat nose to tail because there's too much iron in those organ meats for Violet. But for example, if Pat wanted to, he could eat nose to tail and never touch a vegetable ever again, right? So the thing is that it's about understanding what you're trying to accomplish. The reason that I love Dr. Berg and him telling us to load up on those vegetables, and the reason I love that is because it opened the door for me to really start to investigate what vegetables were out there that I could eat, that I could make a meal, not be hungry, feel satiated. Because remember, when I started this way of eating, standard American, standard Canadian, standard Caribbean diet, I was used to eating and feeling full. So the idea that I was going to eat and still feel like I could still be eating something, what would that have led to? It would have led to me eating things that I probably shouldn't have been eating. So this is great because I feel like even if 5 grams of carbs, I mean, on a humongous salad, could she do it? I'm not trying to figure out what would you
Could
eat
he or
that would
she?
be. But the thing is that I do feel that you could eat 5 grams of carbs of vegetables if you pick the right ones and
Yeah.
still have a rather healthy portion of
Yeah.
vegetables on your plate.
Of salad, basically, because like anything
Cabbage.
else, you
Like
can do
my
that.
point though is that you can, I mean, I know for sure
Mm.
cabbage was one of my favorites because it was so low in
Yeah.
carb. And it's like one of the ones that I eat the most.
Oh,
If I
yeah.
when I do eat a vegetable,
Mhm.
it's usually cabbage and broccoli. Those
But
are my two go-tos.
so okay, so see if we were back at the question, because that's where I was going. Like 5 grams per meal, does it mean that basically, since your body is trying to always have the 5 grams in your blood, you wouldn't spike your insulin at all, or you still like
Of course
would
you're going to.
have a little, yeah.
As soon as
So
you put so spike is an interesting word.
yeah, this,
You are going to have an insulin rise, and it's going to be bigger than if you had eaten protein or fat. As soon as you put any carbohydrate in your mouth.
yeah.
So is it going to stop you from having the insulin rise? No. But you have to keep it in mind. Like our brain is also doing something very specific with the information that it's gathering. The sweeter the taste is, the more our body is going to react with the insulin. So the good example is eating cabbage versus eating a sweet tasting vegetable, which I can't think of one right now because I haven't had a sweet tasting vegetable in a long time.
Bell pepper,
A bell
sometimes,
pepper,
maybe?
for example. Okay, like theoretically, you'd think that your body's going to have a little bit more reaction to the bell pepper than to the cabbage, right? I think it's
Because
still going
of
to
the
be hard.
number of grams of carbs, or just because the
The
idea
cephalic,
of
the
like the cephalic
cephalic. I
to
think so.
sweetness?
Again, I think your body's always
Mm.
testing and verifying so that it can tell like what should it be doing. You're eating. Oh, what? So
You're right. Like even if you were just eating protein and fat, you would have an insulin like
rise.
response rise
Mhm.
anyway. But then the question becomes: does it really matter then to limit your meal to 5 grams, or like 5 grams, 20 grams is not going to make a huge difference, especially if your carbs are coming from the healthiest sources.
So that's not true because
Mm.
it will make a difference because it's the same thing as basically your brain is prepping your body. But then how much you actually intake matters. This is part of the reason that when you do artificial sweeteners, but you actually didn't eat anything, you get hungry because your brain was prepping your body for incoming sugar. Nothing came in. Now it's pushing you to go replace what it just put away, right? So if you actually eat 5 grams of carbs in your meal, your body's gonna deal with 5 grams of carbs.
Mm.
If you eat 20, your body's dealing with 20.
But honestly, like it's more a
But
question: do you like? Is it your goal to put 20 grams of
I was
carbs
just
on
gonna
your
say,
plate?
I was just gonna
Like,
say,
sorry, I stole your idea. But like, don't make it a goal to put 20 grams of carbs like on your plate. I'm still adjusting on my back to keto lifestyle. With sometimes I go a little bit over 20. I'm well under 30 now, but it can be challenging when you like variety like me. If you had a little bit of nuts, or if you have a little bit more carby cheeses, if you like vegetables that are a little bit higher on the glycemic index, like anything basically more than salad. Um, so you need to be like, but it's not a goal to put 20 grams of your plate. Just put the best food that are available to you. And if you're still tracking, track. Thing is, even if you have 20 grams or less on one meal, at the end of the day, you're still going to be in ketosis and tapping your fat if you don't go over your fat number if you're tracking.
so what I'm gonna say also is we have to be careful because every person is different. And the reason I'm saying that is that it's not because, like, maybe Violet, and the reason that I'm down so low that I am down, maybe is because I need to be that low. So the thing is that 20 is what doctors believe most people can eat and be in ketosis. It doesn't mean every person can eat 20 and be in ketosis. That's why it's 20 or less.
Mhm.
Like the truth is for me, throughout my process of doing, like, again, let's take the first 2 months out, for example. But once I really started to understand what I was aiming at, it was rare that I had the full 20 in my day. So where I'm looking at what you're saying and I'm thinking like when I was doing 2 meals, which didn't last super long, but when I was doing 2 meals, the question now is was I actually doing 10 and 10? And probably not, right? But does that mean that you have to do that? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we each need to kind of understand what we're trying to accomplish. If I'm getting results, I keep doing what I'm doing. If I notice that I'm not getting my results, okay, then I have to start to question why am I not getting the results that I'm trying to get? And perhaps what you're going to start to see is that maybe that I got to a certain stage where now my body is pushing me to lower those carbs more. And this is one of the things where you see some people they might start doing net. And if you're doing 20 net, in reality you're doing about 50
Right.
total.
True.
So it's like if you start off doing 20 net and then you realize your body's not reacting well, eventually you might have to go down to 20 total.
Mhm.
And then eventually you might find out even at 20 total, like I still need to go further and further. And so that's what I'm saying. So do I think aiming at 5 per meal is great? Yeah, absolutely. And I would never say no to
Mhm.
that. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes I do zero in a meal. Do I feel like it has to be that? Probably not. I mean, you need to monitor. You need to
Mm.
see how do I feel. Maybe what you're gonna learn is that when you do 5, you feel the best.
Mm.
And that's going to encourage you to keep doing it. One last thing I'm going to say, just to what you said earlier about liking variety and nuts and this, and I always encourage everybody eat a meal. So if you're putting things like nuts before a meal, you're opening the door for yourself to overeat. So I would put the meal first, and if you're going to have nuts, I would have it on the back end, not on the front end. And cheese and all the other things is like have the meal first,
Mm.
put those things on the back end. So just want to say that because I feel like it's important for us to understand what we're actually aiming at. When you're hungry, eat a meal.
Mm. Like I know a lot of people are recommending the 20 grams total. Like you said, if you need to push to 20 grams total, like that also means a lot of things need to come out of your diet, even like avocados, because avocados are relatively high in carbs, but they're also super high in fiber. So, like, bottom line, the net carbs are good. Uh, my question is more like if someone, some like viewer wants to push it to 20 grams total carbs or less, like they're probably left if they want to have some vegetation to the leafy greens. Are
I want
there
to
any?
pause you there. I don't believe that's the case. You choose what you're going to eat today.
But the oh yeah, sure,
If you
but
want to have one carrot for the whole day, you have the right to
okay,
do that. I can't tell you
yeah.
no.
I guess my question is more is one person usually will get all the nutrients needed for like a good functioning body in the leafy greens, even though you don't have like a lot of variety in your vegetable. You don't have the cabbage, you don't have broccoli, you don't have cauliflower, for example, that are a little bit higher in carbs. Do you get what you need, especially if you don't need? I know like sometimes you say also like we need if you eat nose to tails you get all the, but let's say you don't eat nose to tail, like are you getting like all the nutrients you need when eating like varied leafy greens? Like you just don't eat romaine or iceberg, like vary your leafy, because most leafy greens are low in carbs, I think.
So I feel like the more varied your vegetables, the better chance you have of getting all of the nutrients that you need. There's certain nutrients that we need in bigger amounts than others. And so like sometimes depending on what kind of vegetables you're choosing, you can still get what you need. What I would say is, and I go back, you're right. If you want to make sure that you're hitting all those nutrients, eat those organ meats. So if you don't have a condition like me, eat those organ meats. I mean, honestly, you're talking probably one meal out of the week is going to help you to not feel like you're missing, that you're not to be in a bad situation, right? And trust me, if I could do it, I would be doing it because it would make my life a lot easier. Even with that, I don't eat varied vegetation, right? I eat the ones that give me the most variety, but I don't eat varied as much as I possibly could. And oftentimes, like I said, I have carnivore days often enough that probably, considering I can't eat organ meats, I probably shouldn't be, right? So I do supplement though sometimes, but even that I don't do very regularly, like maybe once every other week. So I want you guys, I'll put the supplement that I use down in the description if you're curious, but I want you guys to just consider that I personally go by how I feel.
Mm.
And as long as I'm feeling good, I keep going for it. When I do add that supplement is because I feel like, oof, I'm feeling off. Then I'll do it. I try to make sure that I don't always eat the same meat every time. So I do try to vary my meats as much as as much as I can for my
Yeah.
condition. But, you know, so going to what you're saying is that if you can vary your vegetation more and not have to worry about the iron intake, I definitely would encourage you to do it. I have to worry about my iron intake. Not everybody's in that situation.
Yeah. So in the end, you don't aim for a particularly amount of carb, just and not necessarily like restrict to five. If you do like one meal a day and you're like under 20, you'll be fine. There's a good chance you'll be in ketosis anyway.
And if this
So
is about being in ketosis, like honestly, I feel like the question was more about not poisoning my body with
yeah.
carbohydrates. Because the thing is that most of the doctors are helping us to understand that when you eat 20-ish grams of carbs, what your body is going to do is it's going to replenish what needs to be replenished. It's going to
Mm.
use some of it as energy right away, and it's going to store if there's too much. So like, I think for you, if you are eating, let's say you're eating 20 grams of carbs per day, and you feel like your weight is creeping up a little bit, go down to 15 and see what happens. Go down to 10, see what happens. So it's like, I don't think there's a problem with eating 5 grams of carbs in a meal, but I do need you to understand, I'm not saying that if you eat 5 grams of carbs in a meal, you don't have the possibility to store. As soon as you eat carbohydrates, you have the possibility to store because you're eating carbohydrates. Your body is always at 5. So it's not necessarily about storing or not storing. It's about what can my body manage. I love to say that, carbs help make our food palatable. It's not necessary to eat. So if you like organ meats, eat organ meats and then you don't have to worry about this question. But if you like eating veg, then just understand that every time you eat veg, you open that door because insulin will be deployed. Some sugar will be put away. It's just normal. But there's an in and out happening, right? Because then you're going to turn on and you're going to play with your kid and you're going to use it, or you're going to play with a grandkid, or you're going to go for a walk. You're going to use a little bit. So it's like it's an in and out. It's an in and out.
Still, like that's where I wanted to go, like, because it seems a little bit scary when you say even like at 5 grams, like some of it's gonna be like it's gonna get put away. Sure, but like you said, you're gonna like move and you're gonna spend it. It's not like you're having chocolate cookies or processed food or pasta or bread where the insulin is huge, and this is the one that actually really really harming us and been harming us for the last 25 years, for 30 years for us, like.
Yeah, because it's not just
So
the sugar that needs to get put away. It's all the
yeah,
chemicals in there. It's
yeah,
all the dyes in there. It's all the, right? Like, it's more than just now I'm putting away
yeah.
sugar, right? I'm putting away all the processing that has to. Cookies can live on a shelf for months for a
Mhm.
reason, right? They're not even in vacuum sealed packages. They're just in regularly sealed. They can live on a
Mhm.
shelf for months because of what's in there. And
Yeah.
we need to understand that.
So whole foods, stick within your numbers, and like and the lower glycemic, like the lower glycemic index foods like vegetables, no fruits, like we say, and you should be fine.
For more information on how to do a healthy ketogenic lifestyle, there's a video on the screen right now that I think is really going to be helpful to you. T-shirts and other
Mhm.
things in the description below. Love making these videos for you guys. I want to thank you for watching Mind-Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet Pat Chat Edition. Wellness Warriors, I can't wait to see you guys again next week.
See you next week.